You should call her back.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
Wouldn't jump, no, wrong person.
You don't like Klondike bars.
Isn't it like an ice cream sandwich kind of bar?
Yes. It's not that good.
It's not
I would
worth
take a
it.
bite. If it wasn't that good, I'd be like, no.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to Hardly Working Through It, the show after the show where we take a deep dive even deeper into life, love, and labor. I'm SP.
And I'm Kelly. And today we're asking the question, should couples have access to each other's phones?
No.
Liar.
No, they shouldn't.
No, they should. But anyways, we're going to break that down. We're going to talk about privacy versus openness in relationships. We're going to talk about it all.
We are.
But before we do that,
we always got a couple questions to get to know ya. First one, which of you is more likely to do something strange while out on a date night?
you.
100% me, because I do this a lot.
Does.
A couple days ago, we talked about it on Hardly Working, that we were at the All-Star Soccer 3 games in one day tournament.
Yeah.
Horrible thing. And I know that's not a date, but I'm just the one who yells out random stuff.
Yeah, you did do some weird stuff, didn't you? I
Yeah,
don't really
because
remember.
all the parents are there. They're like, attack,
That's true.
kill
They're all
them, murder
very
the girl with the
intense.
ball.
Get the center. Get the center.
And I'm like, you're
Step
all
up.
doing great.
Step up.
Yes. Or I'll like,
Or
I'll-
at the ref.
oh.
It's a handball, ref. It's a handball. And I'm like, they hit the ball with their hand. Yay. Is that illegal?
We don't even know. Is this not handball? Yeah. So I would be more likely to do something goofy because unless it's like career oriented, I don't take myself seriously.
No.
And I don't really, well, I'll never put someone in an uncomfortable position because one of my primary things is to make people feel comfortable.
Yeah.
If someone's acting like a jerk, I'm probably the one who's going to verbally make fun of it out loud.
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think I may have done that recently. In this economy?
In this economy.
Oh, man.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Definitely me. Next, who is more likely to forget to put gas in the car?
You.
You think that?
Yes, because I
No
am crazy.
shot.
Every time he's like, we're okay to have gas, 30 miles left. I'm like, 30 miles left? We're going to die.
That's true. Look.
I am always, you want to know why?
Yeah, tell me.
I know you're going to say, that's true, and you have other stuff, and I know I'm not trying to cut you off.
Yeah. That's true.
But my
I know you have
mom
more.
ingrained it in my brain that
At a
if
quarter tank, right?
at a quarter tank, you fill up. It's like
My
a
mom
thing.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Shout out to
she
our
didn't-
moms.
No, she did not ingrain it in you. Because you will let it go past a quarter tank. If I am driving, I will
Listen.
not. I will stop. I will
Linda,
find somewhere. I will.
Linda.
Not about comfort gas
Listen.
stations like you are. I will just get it done.
Comfort gas stations. Listen, she taught me that because when I was learning to drive, I didn't have a car that told me how many miles were left on it.
That's true. Quarter
It was
tank.
just a gauge.
Yeah.
So a quarter tank, you were like, you better fill up because you don't know how much longer you have.
Yeah. I mean, I just
Now I
always do
can
that.
see.
Nope.
And here's the deal. People know this. Some
I don't
people
have
know
any
this.
miles.
We drive 120 miles 5 days a week just to take our kid to and
Every
from
other week.
school. Every other week, yes. 5 days a week. So I know that it's about 30 miles to get to school from where we are, which is insane. But if I see that there's 30 miles, or it's like usually it's like there's 60 miles left, great. So by the time I drop Brooklyn off, I'm probably going to have to fill up the car with gas. But if it was 60 miles left and you saw that, like your light might already be on, like you would be
But
looking
I would
for
be
gas,
looking
period.
for a gas station.
And you have, I don't think I've ever met someone who has as many wonderful qualities as you. But you do not understand distance
I
and
don't.
time
Nope.
at all.
It doesn't matter in LA.
Well, time does. Distance
Time and
doesn't.
distance. Yeah. Just they don't mean anything together. So
That's true. This episode also not a sponsor by Topo Chico.
Smart
and
Water.
Smart Water. Oh, my favorite.
okay.
Okay, so we can both agree that you're the one who forgets to put gas in the car.
No.
Have you ever run out of gas somewhere in your life?
No, but my friend Andy has.
Andy Guerrero?
Andy Guerrero. She used to have a car where the gas gauge didn't work.
Oh, that's hard.
But she would like count her miles when she drove. That's how she knew how much.
Oh my
and
gosh, what a nightmare.
I know. I distinctly remember we were actually right around the area where we live now. We
Yeah.
were coming from somewhere like in Granada Hills, going up to Kevin Campbell's house, which was just a straight shot up Zelza. We were all kind of caravanning because we had our own cars. And Andy pulled over to the side of the road. And so naturally, I pulled over to the side of the road because I was like, what's wrong
Yeah.
with her? And we were there with her trying to figure out what was wrong with her car. I thought her car was broken, all this stuff. And then her mom came with like gas and put gas in her car and she was fine. And so she ran out of gas.
Dang.
on the side of Zelza, right next to where Brooklyn used to go to school.
Oh yeah, I know exactly where that is now.
Yeah.
I have never run out of gas. I've come real close, I'm sure.
I've never run out of gas. But you have to understand, it's a different world for girls than it is
Sure.
for guys. Especially a couple years ago when I first started driving. Like, yes, we
A
had
couple years ago when you first started driving?
Well, like I'm just saying for the kiddos now, like there's so much technology and there's so many things to tell you about your stuff. Like you said, it tells you how many miles, tells you all of that stuff that like you're probably not going to run out of gas unless you're really stupid and you're really just like, I'm defiant. I'm not listening to the fact that you tell me I have 2 miles left. You know what I mean?
Like me.
But like when I was driving, I had crappy cars. My first car was a 95 Honda Civic. I was born in 91, y'all. I learned how to drive in like 2010, 2009, something like that.
Who knows?
It didn't have the fancy bells and whistles. Like it was you just had your gas tank.
That's it.
And
No backup camera.
Cell phones were a thing for
No
sure.
power windows.
Yeah, I did. I had a power windows in that one, but not in my
really?
next car. My next car
Ironic.
was roll down windows, which sucked. But I don't remember what I was saying.
You were talking about running out of gas, maybe with your old car.
Oh yeah, like a quarter tank. I always filling it up because I was not going to run out of gas. But it wasn't the same. Oh, I was talking about girls. It wasn't the same. Like you didn't want to get as a female, you did not want to get stranded anywhere.
Sure.
Because there weren't as yes, we all have cell phones and all the things, but not as much as everyone has now, and not with the filming capabilities that we all have now.
Yeah, we could probably DoorDash a canister of gas if we needed it.
Yeah, exactly. It's very different back then, and I was never going to be stopped anywhere without gas on the side of the road. It just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So quarter tank, I was like, I'm getting gas every time.
Well,
or if I was driving far and I had a half tank, I'd fill up. Like it just wasn't. I was never not going to be without gas. Anyway.
So I'm the one truly that is going to run out of gas. We'll see. The first one to do it, we'll talk about it on the show.
Here's the thing. I don't know that you would be the one to run out of gas.
But I'm more
but
likely.
You are the one that is going to push the limit.
That's why they call
of
me
how far
Sports
you can
Chalet,
go.
baby.
We'll take you to the limit. I don't think it exists anymore. But you know what I mean? You're going to push the limit to be like, we could probably make it. And I'm like, what do I tell you every time? All right, but if we run out of gas, like you're pushing the car. It's what I say every time.
And I'm willing. I'm really not. I'm delicate.
I know. That's why I say it. Because I'm like, maybe if I say it, he'll be like, no.
I don't want to push. That's true. I don't. Well, let's get into the question at hand because some people, all caps, hate when you talk before answering the question. They don't want to hear catching up on weeks. So
Catching on weeks.
Forget all this small talk. Forget getting to know us. We need to get to the question at hand. And that is, should couples have access, bless you, to each other's phones?
Well, here's the deal. Our answer is yes.
Yeah.
Because
so
we share everything.
We can talk about what we do and then what other people do and how we're right and they're wrong.
It's true.
Is it?
It's not. So I looked up some stuff in this.
Okay.
We are right. They're wrong. So for everyone listening, we are an open book. Let's be real.
I thought you were going to say relationship.
No.
It's like for everyone listening,
we're not
far and wide. Listen.
But we're an open book with each other. We know each other. I'm not going to talk too much about passwords because we shouldn't talk about that. But we know each other's passwords to everything. Everything. We share a bank account, bank accounts. We're very open with all of that stuff. The only thing we don't share, ironically, is an Amazon account.
Yeah, that's just complicated.
Well, you share with your mom and your sister, and I share with my brother.
The Amazon was not included in the prenup, so...
No. So it doesn't matter. But that's the only thing we don't share just because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Currently where we're at. All my history is in my Amazon account.
That's how we both feel. But anyway.
True. Yes. But we are each other's faces is in each other's phones. Like my face opens his phone. His face opens my phone. I know his passcode to his phone. It's the same as my passcode to my phone. Mm-hmm. So like we don't have that issue. We've shared locations for as long as we've dated. Like it's just not... It doesn't matter.
As long as we've dated, even that far back, huh? I don't remember when we
probably quite early on to us starting dating. I think we started sharing location. We just did.
It also, my life is on the road a lot too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you like to know if I made it to the state I'm flying to.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So that's probably early on.
But we're also, as people know, if they've listened to our show, very like dependent on each other. Like if you are flying, like once I drop you off, you're probably calling me once you get through security, and then you're texting me that you've boarded, and then you're texting me that you're taking off. And then when you land, I'm the first person you text, and then you call me when you get... Or you text me when you get in the Uber, and then you call me when you get in the hotel. Like, and I do the same thing. Like, I always know what's going on with you in the same way you always know what's going on with me.
When you list it that frequently, it really makes me seem needy.
I do the same thing though. Like when I travel, I do the same thing. I call you when I get through security.
No, I'm just joking around.
Yeah, or we're together and then we're just talking the whole time. But I know that that's not normal. And something that we do that I know a lot of people don't do. Sorry, I'm just really jumping into it.
Go for it.
Is like we will hand each other our phones. If I'm like, hey, can I see blah blah blah? You're not like, oh yeah, let me do it. You're like, yeah, here, I don't care, and I'll do the same thing. Or if I need something, I'll just grab your phone. Or if I ask you for your phone, or vice versa, we're not like, why? We're like, yeah, here.
Yeah.
Or, oh, can you hold on a second while I finish this text message? And then here you go. But here's my, I have lots of research, but here's the first of it. I did look it up. So this says the majority of Americans have shared their smartphone password or passcodes. Only 75% of married couples, or no, of couples in general. Okay. 75% have shared their smartphone passcode.
That seems higher than I thought.
62% have shared their email accounts, and only 42% have shared their social media accounts.
Passwords
for that type of stuff.
I don't know your passwords, but I can get into your phone. But I wouldn't be able to like log into your Instagram on my phone without being like, what's your password for this?
That's true, but we do also share 2 other accounts on our Insta. We share a Bumble Booth and our Hardly Working Insta. So there's that.
And email, you think that's lower just because less people are doing weird stuff on email?
I don't, honestly, I don't know. I'd have to assume it's more work stuff. I do have a lot more. I'm just going to show you. I do have a lot more like break it down.
Oh yeah.
Knowledge.
Hit me with whatever is good for you.
We can talk
I'll
about
stop
this.
interrupting.
No, you can totally interrupt. I honestly, I'm like, I don't know how much to share.
As much as your heart desires.
This. But it was interesting because as I started doing research, I mean, here's the deal. And I'll say this to everyone to hear is that there are different percentages depending on like what you look at. Like what poll or research you did. But I did find a really good article that talks about a lot of stuff. And one of the things they talked about was, well, why do couples share their passwords?
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. And I didn't take a picture of how many people this says shared. So let me see if I can find that really quick. And maybe you can
I'll tell you why I do it for you and with you is that the most obvious answer is because I think it fosters trust. That it's like when you can get access to something, you have less of a curiosity as to what's behind the unaccessible area.
Yeah.
You're like, I can walk through that door whenever I want to. And because I can, I just don't need to as much.
Yeah. And I feel like you and I have nothing to hide. And that's kind of the point too. It's like, yeah, you can have my phone. I don't care. Unless I'm planning some top secret surprise party for you, which probably won't happen because you don't like surprises.
I don't. But also I'd say there's a utility part of it for me. Like, I'm like, hey, can you order this food because I'm running up on stage and I know my schedule won't allow me to do this or whatever. Or can you take video? You'll ask me to take video on your phone or whatever of you doing something with a booth. Like being able to get in and out of each other's phones, there's a utility aspect that's really helpful. Yeah, it's a necessity as well. Those would be mine. And I know that's not necessarily, I know the trust is a piece of it for people, but I'm sure the utilitarian part of it isn't. Yeah,
but you want to know something that's interesting before I get into this? Sorry. Yeah. I think it's interesting. We are so open and we're so honest. But something that was really big and a part of the culture that we both grew up in was like, if you're going to text someone or be with someone, it has to be 3.
Yeah, that was one of the things I wanted to talk about today.
I mean, it could be a boy and a boy, it could be a girl and a girl, but it can never be a boy and a girl. It had to be a boy and a girl and someone else.
This is in the context of your growing up too? Because I know it was a part of my life.
I mean, it's part of church culture.
So that was true of you even though you weren't married? Because that really shifted when I got married.
No, it's more of a married thing. But like even when I worked at the church, it was like, but you can't be alone like you and a guy. Like you have to have somebody else. You can't just do that. But a lot of it is because adultery or whatever. But it's interesting because a big part, which you'll talk about, I'm sure right now, a big part of that was text messages. You couldn't even be in a text message with you personally, couldn't be in a text message with another girl without your, at the time, spouse, which wasn't me, being in that text message thread. And that's something that is not true of us. I'm like, I don't care. I don't want to be in every single text message that you have with somebody else.
I don't even want to be in a text message with anyone, period, ever.
I know, but it is interesting because I'm like, you obviously you text Tara. I'm like, I don't need to be in the work text messages.
Sure.
Sometimes I want to be because I'm doing stuff.
The dates and you're scheduling the flights.
Yeah, but like, I don't need to be in every text message that's like, hey, are you available for these holds?
Yeah.
There's a couple of people, other like Jen.
There's a ton of people.
Whoever else.
Well, I mean, the answer is there's nobody that you feel like you need to be in the conversation with.
Unless it pertains to me and we're all talking about something, like I have no desire. In the same way that like, I can text, well, I'm just bringing up names, text Mark or Lamar or whoever, and you're like, I don't care. I'm probably going to tell you about it in the same way that you're probably going to tell me about it because we don't tell anybody. We We don't hold anything from each other, not even
Right.
Christmas gifts. It's very odd.
We're trying though.
We're trying. But yeah. I'll let you talk more about
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure
Sorry.
we'll get into it a little bit more. I'm interested to hear what the research you have. We've mentioned this at this point. This is seasons ago that we've talked about kind of that part of the culture, but I'll revisit it briefly for those who don't know. But I remember being in what we would have called small groups or life groups, which is just similarly aged or staged people that get together once a week to talk about their life or their ministry or their walk or whatever it is. And one of the books we ended up reading was called Hedges. And the idea was creating boundaries to protect your marriage. Very healthy and wonderful idea.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say quickly, but it wasn't actually. It took me years to realize that the undercurrent of that was, here's how you create boundaries in your marriage, because you should have an inherent distrust of your partner.
Yeah.
It was never like, make sure your partner knows your password.
Yeah.
Because then they can help you out when they need to. It's like, so they can check whenever they, do a random search of your phone to see,
Yeah.
make sure you're not. There was just this undertone of assume that somebody is doing something wrong.
Yep.
Which I didn't see because it was masked, in my opinion, with like, oh, this totally makes sense. This is a healthy thing. In the same way, we saw that quote recently that I read to you, and I was like, the quote was, manipulation oftentimes looks a lot like love.
Yes.
And I think it
Said
was
it a couple times.
Yeah, we've said it a couple times this week, and I think it's true in this scenario too. It might not be manipulation, but I'll use it for the sake of this conversation. Is manipulation looks a lot like love. I saw that as the loving thing to do for your marriage, rather than what I think can and maybe did happen, which was like it kind of deepened this feeling of like, should I be worried? I wasn't worried before, but I guess I should be. Do I need to look through her
Yeah.
text? It was all of a sudden, maybe I was naive and then woke up, but it looked like love, but really what I think it was fear mongering is too strong of a word.
But kind of.
It was, but it was fear based,
Yeah.
if nothing else.
Yeah, well, sorry, I have lots of research and stuff like
Great.
that. It's interesting you talk about like, should I look through their phone, or like now I have this fear of like, yes, I need to look with I need to know what's going on.
Right.
There in that same study that I talked to you about prior, which is different than the study that we're going to probably break down into. They said that according to that study, 35% of Americans have looked through a partner's phone without their knowledge.
Ooh.
Which I actually thought was, I think it's both high and low. It's very interesting. But I'm like, dang, like 35% of couples.
That seems lower than
It
I would
seems
think.
lower, but then I also wonder, well, how many of them
Admitted to it on a survey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But anyways. All right. Do you want to know reasons why people share their passwords?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry,
Going
and I'm
back to
kind
it,
of,
sure.
I feel all over the place. I have so much information. I'm like, how do I share it all? I don't know.
Share it one at a time. Let's do it.
So different reasons why couples share passwords. And this is not just phone passwords, it's just passwords in general, according to this study. And according to this study, just so we're all clear, this is a study according to a 2014 Pew Research report. I think that's what this one is. Oh, no. It's ExpressVPN. I take it back. And January 31st, 2023 is when this survey was done. So that 81% of Americans have admitted that they've shared their passwords with their partner. So 81% of Americans are not breaking down what type of passwords. They're just saying passwords. Reasons why people have done this: to save costs.
Okay.
So that's probably like Netflix, Amazon,
Sure,
all that
yeah.
stuff. To be transparent, to prove trust, to show loyalty, to be closer to each other, and to prevent jealousy. So the top answer at 44% was to save costs, with the lowest at 12% is to save jealousy. It all kind of feels the same in the middle when you talk about being transparent, trust, and show loyalty.
I'd say in terms of my values, I'd flip them all the way upside down. It's like the trust and the loyalty part would be more important to me than like the cost or saving money.
Oh yeah, I don't care about any of that stuff. I just am like, I have nothing to hide because I'm so in love with you that I like, who else could I be talking to?
Yeah, and I realize that we see the world and our relationship differently than a lot.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, like if I found something on your phone because it was there, while that wouldn't be a fun thing, we still kind of have this philosophy of like, you're living your life and you're making your choices.
Yeah.
And you already know, this is you or me, doesn't matter. You already know that if you're doing something stupid, that's going to impact your life, you know? And I think both of us have that inherent understanding that why would you mess up a good thing?
Yeah.
In my opinion is, why would we mess up a great thing?
Yeah.
I've never had as much fun as I do with you. Like I've never had a relationship that's been just so life-giving. It's like, why would I do something stupid? But let's dig a little deeper in this, because different people think something stupid is different. Is an affair what people are talking about? Is pornography what people are talking about? Is texting another woman, platonically or otherwise, something? So I guess there's a huge gambit of things that people might be like, oh, I would never cheat on someone.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know if, I'd be comfortable if she saw my text with Lisa from work or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I guess there's differing levels of what
Yeah.
you could be worried about. I'm always just assuming like that we're at the highest level, of betrayal.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we could talk about this forever because I think you and I just are on the same page, but it is interesting to, I wish that we could have someone here who was like, yeah, I'm not sharing my password or all this stuff. And so I could ask them why, because
Well,
I
let's talk
don't
about that.
understand.
Yeah. So let's flip it on its head then. Yeah. Why wouldn't you share your,
I mean, I know why I wouldn't. We just said it to the extreme is because if we flip it, like I'm having an affair, or I'm talking to someone in a way that isn't appropriate. I'm like, well, I don't want you to see that.
yeah, sure.
Right. So I'm hiding that. So
I'm trying to like take that out of the equation to
Okay.
be like, if someone's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything that would be bad, but I also want my privacy.
I mean, it could be because,
I think some people are just very individualistic. Like,
yeah.
there's certain things that like, this is, yes, we're married, but that doesn't mean that every part of my life is a part that you're in.
That's true.
I could see, I mean, that's not how we operate because we're much more on the codependent side versus the independent side. But I could see some people being like, this is just a value to me.
That's
is
true.
like having my own space. It's my man cave, but it's in my pocket or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great argument. I'm just
No.
saying it could be.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Sorry. As I'm going through, because I forgot all the things because I looked it up and then I forgot. Let's be real. But out of the 81%, I do have a breakdown of like what people have shared. And
great.
I was surprised by some of the things on there because when you and I talk about or think about like sharing an openness within like the digital realm, I think we're like, yeah, your phone, which has everything on it.
Yeah.
Like if you give me your
access to any
phone,
and everything.
I have access to everything because I don't just have your phone password, like my face is attached to everything too. So any
True.
app on your phone I can open up because it's
It'll
reading my
unlock, yeah.
face. But I don't think about the people that are like, oh, I'm giving you my phone password, but like you can't open it. You don't have my fingerprint in there or my face in there, depending on what type of iPhone you have, or if you're an
Right.
Android user, I don't know how it works.
And I'm gonna be honest, there might be settings where it's like only passcodes for this or something.
But
I don't know.
think about it. If I know your cell phone password, I don't
Yeah.
know that I can get into like your bank account. Maybe I can.
You can with your face.
But if my face wasn't attached.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Not.
But out of that 81%, only 19% of couples have shared their mobile password.
To unlock their phone?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that 81% is BS.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, she's got my Netflix.
Yeah. Well, 30% of it is video streaming services. 30% of the 80%.
And what was the other percent? 13?
What?
What was the percentage of people who gave their passwords to their phones to their partners?
19.
19. Okay, so not
Yeah.
quite double.
Yeah. So you have like video streaming services at the top. The next, which is interesting, is people's banking PIN number, which I think is very weird, but you'd have to have the credit card in order to use the PIN,
Sure.
but still. Then you have all tied computer passcode, music streaming service, and mobile passcodes, followed directly by email passcodes, food and grocery delivery service. And then you have credit card login. And the very lowest, which I think is an interesting thing, is social media accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I can't speak to that, but it's particularly the social media ones, mostly because I only have basically 2 social medias and you're a part of both of them.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's what I'm thinking. Sorry, you're going to have to work with me through this.
That's okay. I have
dear
lots of
dear
info.
friends listening as well. I guess I realized as you were describing like the list and stuff, one of the things that happens a lot with couples is they get married and they kind of think that, especially religious, that they have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
Especially if it is a part of the religion.
Yeah.
It's like, well, the holy book says this, so we both agree this. And not everybody believes the same things. And I think that people can feel like, well, if my spouse knew that I really believed this, or I thought this was okay, even though everyone else says it's not okay, but it's not affecting me or her or him or whatever it is, so it's not that big of a deal. I think that people are still can be worried or ashamed that some of the differences that they have
Yeah.
could or would be exposed. Kind of similar to like if we agreed that drinking is something that we don't do.
Yeah.
But then you found out that I go out to bars or I go to Smart and Final or
And
like
you,
drink
like,
in the car or
yeah.
something. You'd be like, what are we, which I don't, by the way, don't drink and drive. It'd be like, what's going on here? Which could have been something that was like, hey, I actually don't find alcohol to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But sometimes when you've gone so far in a relationship, it's hard to be like, I don't think that anymore. Or I never thought that or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So I bet that there's obviously things on people's phones that may fall into the category of my partner might not agree with this or like this, but I don't have a problem with it. And I don't want to bridge that conversation yet. Does that make sense?
Yes. Has that ever happened to you? Like when you think about, I don't know that that's happened between you and I, but when I think about your first marriage and what I know about the church and that you guys were so involved in that as well. Like, did that ever happen where there was something that you were like, I don't know that I want to share this with you, not because it's bad, but because like, I think I'll get in trouble for it.
Right.
Even though it's not bad. It just isn't your preference.
I'm trying to think of a specific example. I can identify that I've had that feeling in that relationship for sure. I don't know that I can think of a specific instance where it happened.
Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think it through. And again, that relationship was over a decade ago, so it's hard to remember the details. But I can't think of anything specific right now. But if I do later, I will bring it up. But I also know, like, I think even religiously in that relationship, I think one of us was more conservative and the other one was more liberal. I actually think both of us tended to be more on the liberal side. But I just thought of something, and it's not necessarily my story to tell, but it's also not a bad story. It was weird when Whitney, my former wife, and I were together towards the end, and granted, things weren't awesome. I think we both would agree to that. But she started getting tattoos, like pretty significant tattoos, which I can now see from my vantage point is like, hey, do whatever you want. Like, it's your body, your life. But before, it was like we both agreed, like, that's not something we're interested in. Yeah. And now someone's putting something on their body that, like, the other person has to live with forever. And so how much of that person's opinion matters in this thing? Like, we both agreed, and now it's different. And I remember that caused, it started with nose rings and piercings and then moved to tattoos and all this kind of stuff. And I remember that feeling like almost as if, like, things were slipping out of my control and slipping away. Like, this person is just, it's crazy to say, an individual with their own desires. Yeah. And like, that's awesome. And it should be that way. But
now you can see that. But at the time,
I couldn't see it before because I was like, we both agreed on things. Now all of a sudden you're changing that. What are you changing? Are you growing? Yeah. You know, all awesome things. Yeah. But in the context of that, to me, it was a bad thing. It was bad for us and bad for me. So I know that's not exactly a perfect example, but that's one of the ways that I saw that happen. This doesn't have to do with privacy or phone or anything like that. But all that to say, as people change or they've committed to something, or that was a big thing with Whitney and I, is we got together when we were 15 years old. Yeah. And it's really hard to not only just shed bad habits from being 15 and being bad at communicating because you're 15 or whatever it is, bad at conflict because you're 15, but also hopefully most of us don't believe all of the same things we did at 15 that we do 15 years later at 30. But it's hard when you both start someplace and agree to something and then one or both parties are changing and moving. Kind of goes back to the question we talked about. I think we talked about it on the last week on Hardly Working, was like, people shouldn't get married till they're 25. It's like there is some truth to that because you know a little bit more about who you are and all that kind of stuff. A little bit more life. You're not as shaped just by the external things. You've started shaping yourself internally into who you really are. Anyway, I know that was a little bit I'm sure it answered your question a little bit, but hopefully enough to get a good answer out of me. It's
an interesting thing to talk about because you and I are just so open with our stuff, and we've always kind of been that way. There's really nothing that we've like hidden from each other or didn't want to share in terms of social media or phones or passwords, any of that stuff. And I have nothing to speak to prior to that because I was never married. And not that you can't share that stuff with couples, but I think it's different when you're living with, like when you live with someone and are a couple in that way versus like you're just boyfriend and girlfriend dating and you're like still young.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like it wasn't a thing. And I had a flip phone. I think during that time.
Not
And
a lot of access to tons of different options.
Yeah. But it is interesting. Like I said, I wish we had someone here we could kind of talk to about that. I wish I would have asked.
One of the things I do know, though, is that it is harder to change something later in a relationship than it is to start off at the beginning of a relationship and be like, hey, here's the reality of my junk. And I think that sounded different than I meant it. Here's the reality of my baggage. And I think, and I've mentioned this before on one of our shows, you and I had the benefit of when we started dating, I had a kid. I had already been married.
Yeah.
There was no way of me being like, oh, I just do this for a living and I'm a pretty cool guy. It was like, no, you kind of got to know my drama because there's no way around my drama and my baggage. And pardon me, I think because we started there, it made the other stuff easier to talk about. I've said this before on the show, but I was like, here it all is. And Kelly's like, okay, is there more? Or is that's it? Oh, that's it.
That's everything.
Okay,
yeah.
great. But that also, for what it's worth, and this is a little bit tangential, that's also a big difference between my experience with you versus my experience with any other person, is that you do have the closest thing to unconditional love and acceptance that I've ever experienced with a person.
Yeah, thanks, babe.
Absolutely. But thank you, because that's what you've given me, is like, even when there's times where we disagree or don't feel the same way about stuff or are in diametrically opposed, like you still have so much love for me, and acceptance and understanding and that kind of stuff. Ram Dass talks about it. He talks about unconditional love, and he's like, no one really has unconditional love, because it's like, if you're in a relationship, you're like, I love you so much that I would let you leave to go be with the person that you love even more than me. Like, oh, I think I found a condition.
Yeah.
I love you so much,
love, yeah.
enough that I could stab you. Like, I mean, honestly, why would you want to do that? But at the same time, I found another condition.
Yeah.
Unconditional love is love that does not change based on anything that happens.
It's true.
And I can definitively say you and I don't have unconditional love because there's conditions. If you ran Brooklyn over intentionally with a car, we're probably done as well. There's conditions.
For
but
sure.
I think that what I've experienced with you, as I said before, and it's been one of the biggest gifts of my life, is you've been the closest thing to the most loving, accepting, unconditional love that I've ever received from a person.
Thanks, babe.
And I think that has set us up better than what I've experienced in the past in order to have a lot of trust.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you say that, because as you were talking, I was like, I think that's probably why it's easy for us to share stuff, because what I have to assume is that it's probably harder for men, no offense,
Sure,
to share location, password, all of that stuff than it is for women to do it, because I think women are like, I have nothing to hide. Like, here's all the things, and maybe assume the worst of men. But I think it's interesting that it's easy for us, because I think you've just felt like that for me this whole time. Like, I just love you, who you are. I'm not trying to catch you in anything. I'm not trying to do that. Like, I just like sharing stuff with you.
Yeah.
And I want to know all the things. But I think it's true that if you are a person that is either gone through something in your past that's really like affected you and made you question everybody, like you just are kind of a little bit paranoid when it comes to trust, or have trust issues, I guess is what you call that. Or if you are someone that is out to sabotage yourself, who's truly like, they have to be hiding something from me.
right.
That the sharing of stuff is probably harder.
Yeah,
because
for
if
sure.
I came into this relationship and was like, well, you can't talk to girls just by yourself, because like, it's not okay. And that must mean something bad. And then you get a text from Tara, who's asking you about a gig. I could be like, what are you seeing, Tara? Now, you know what I mean? Like, which isn't true, isn't a thing. It's a work thing. It could be her, it could be Jennifer, it could be Marilyn, it could be whoever, you know what I mean? Any of the people that reach out to hire you about stuff. But if I am a person that has trust issues or innately, or thinks that you, like, who you are as a person is going to cheat on me, or is going to not, even if you don't have sex with that person, like, you're going to not value me as your number one. You're going to put them first. Then like, I could see how sharing would be hard, because you wouldn't necessarily want that person to take what you've said and twist it to be something else.
Do you think, I think you and I'm pretty sure, have never been cheated on by a partner, at least not that we know of.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it easier for us to be like, check out my stuff.
Yeah.
rather than people who may have the baggage of having been hurt and burned that way, might be more private or more skeptical about why wouldn't you send me or like give me your password or whatever. But do you think that people who have been their trust has been betrayed in a relationship are going to be more likely to share their passwords and stuff, or less likely? And I'm talking about the people who it's happened to.
I think more likely, and
Do you think it's more likely that they would share passwords?
yeah,
Okay.
and more likely that the expectation is that their partner shares passwords. And honestly, I also think that people that have been the ones to cheat on their significant other in the past
Are less likely.
no, I actually think they're
Really?
more likely to require their partner to share information.
If that person cheated, if you're saying
Like,
if
if
somebody
I-
cheated, they're more likely to be like, you better share your location with me.
Yeah, like if
Because
I'm
I've already done this or something.
yes, because I think that they're like, well, it's happened. Like if I can do it in the past,
Oh, then anyone can
then
do
like
it.
I know what the signs are. So like I want to have all your stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that is true. And I know somebody,
Yeah.
an acquaintance,
Yeah.
not necessarily friend. And I've heard stories,
Okay.
right? That this person had cheated on an ex in the past and now has their own personal like trust issues
Okay. Because they chose to do that.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
with their now partner
Oh, okay.
that
makes
has
sense.
never, well, has their own past. But do you know what I mean? Like within their relationship, it hasn't happened. But the person who had the prior experience of like cheating on their ex is now like very mindful and aware of every kind of action that their now partner does.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was very interesting because I was like, it's weird that you would feel that way. But I think it is because of that. They're like, well, I know how easy it is.
Yeah.
I did it. So like, I know all the signs. But I also think that it's probably very hurtful, not only to the relationship, but to the person in general, because it's like every little thing could be, you can take anything that anyone does and be like, oh, that person must be hiding something from me.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
I do think that for some people, it takes one time for me to be like, hey, can I have your phone? And you'd be like, no, not right now.
For them
to be like, oh, what's going on?
yeah. Why? Yeah.
Yeah. Not for me and you. I'm like, give me your phone.
But as
Looking
you
over your shoulder. What are you doing?
As you describe it, I realize, and I hate that I'm just, kind of putting it under the umbrella, but it seems like it just boils down to trust. And do I trust this person? Whether it's, do I trust this person so much that I don't need their password, or do I trust this person enough that I can give them my password so they can be in there?
Yeah.
It kind of boils down to trust. I also know that baggage, experience, prior relationships, so much stuff comes into play.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like sharing your, oh my
that was
gosh,
so bad.
are you okay?
Yeah. Just shoved the microphone right into my face.
Oh,
in
boy.
A very special moment that you were having. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's all gone now. Tune in next week to Hardly Working Through It.
No.
Are you okay? You gonna
Yeah,
make
yeah.
it? Anyway, I do think it boils down to it boils mostly down to trust.
Yeah. Yes. What I was going to say is I think you're right when it boils down to trust. But what I really think more now than ever is that I think that, I'm going to try to put this into words, but I think that society tells you that you have to be in a relationship in order to be happy, and that you should, it's changing, but like relationship to be happy, that's what you need to do. And I think that people are telling people that like, it's not like what you see in the movies. That's not what a relationship is. It could never be that good.
Yeah.
We talk about this a lot.
Right.
I think a lot of people settle, and the truth is I think there's a lot of trust that comes into it. But I think if you're with someone that you don't feel comfortable enough to share everything with, guess what? It's probably not the right person for you.
Yeah, and it's hard to paint with such a broad brush because most people don't feel like they can share everything with their partner.
For sure. But
that
then
doesn't mean it's the wrong person.
Sure. That it's either the wrong person or you need to put some work in. And I think that's something, while therapy is becoming more of a norm thing, I still think it's something that a lot of people see as bad and like means that you're broken or something's wrong with you. Speaking from experience.
Yeah, sure.
I used to think that. But I think if you're not willing to share something as simple as your phone password, in my opinion, I think it's simple. I understand some people don't. Like, then maybe you need to put some work in.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. It's like if you're not willing to share your phone password, but you are willing to share a bed, you are willing to share
Your money.
yeah, like your body.
You're gonna have
like,
kids. Yeah, like there's so much for me that I go, but why do we put so much power in a phone or in our digital like persona, whatever that is? You know.
You know, I think I see things slightly. Well, I won't say we because you can chime in with how you think, but I think I see things differently too, in the sense that when it comes to, pardon me, trusting you, I trust you that you won't do something that would hurt me.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I trust you to make your own life decisions because you're navigating your own ship. Like
Ship.
Oh, did I not pronounce that enough?
You did. I was just
Either way, you're navigating it. But yeah, I trust you not to hurt me. And at the same time, like if there's a weird world where you would, I would be like that. I trust that she and I are no longer on the same page.
Yeah.
And this for her is no longer what it was before. And as hard as it is to come to terms with that, and as much as I hope that that's never the case for us, I still have a different perspective on life where I realize that everyone's the main character of their own story.
Yeah.
You know, I first and foremost trust you not to do something that we would agree that we wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, it's like, if a person's going to do that, they're going to do that. No matter how much, no matter how many passwords you have of theirs.
That's true. Yeah, I agree with you. Like I said, I think it's an interesting question. I was really excited to talk about this question. And then as we got into it, I was like, I realized I just don't have an issue with it. And so it's hard to give any other perspective other than like, just do it, because why would you hide anything from your partner?
Yeah.
I understand that there are reasons, but yeah, I guess it is like, I trust you to live your life in a way that reflects the person that I married and that I love, which is a person that's full of integrity and someone that's what's important to you is to make people feel comfortable. And if that changes, I feel like I would know before anything happened in the digital realm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%.
But like, that's how you operate. That's what I trust in you in your daily life. And if I trust you to go out on the road all of the time and be in different cities and sometimes different countries, different states than me all the time, then I think I can trust you to have my cell phone information, like my login information.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting point that you're making too. And I know we're kind of wrapping up here, but you mentioned like, if you trust me to be out of the state all the time, like that would be weird for a lot of people. I think we've had conversations with friends who talk about that.
Yeah. So it'd be hard for them.
Totally. But I also know that it's not hard for us at all.
Not at all.
And I think because we live that life, other things that normal people wouldn't do or couples wouldn't do, we're still okay with, like getting dinner one-on-one with somebody of the opposite gender. Like, I think a lot of people have a problem with that.
Yeah.
We've never had a problem with that. But I think it's because we've, at least for now, we've built up enough trust over the years. Like, going to dinner with somebody seems pretty small compared to going to Monte Carlo for a week.
I know.
You know, like, if I can't trust you with my phone, if I can't trust you with dinner, if I certainly can't trust you with one of us leaving the country. You know what I mean? So I think because our life is a bit different, there are certain things that do or don't make sense accordingly to that.
Sure. I also, yes, I agree with you. And I know I said it and I know you're agreeing with me too. I also think it's interesting too. I just put this together as I said that. I'm like, our life is just different and we do trust each other. But if you don't trust your partner enough to do that, I'm like, I would question as to why, but also I literally was like, catfish is a thing for a reason. Like I can do a reverse Google or reverse image search on you. I could do a reverse phone number search. I could look up anything I wanted to about anybody on the internet if I had their picture or their name. It's like, what are you really hiding by not allowing them to do that? Other than like personal text messages, I guess, with people. Anyway.
I also realized though that there's people listening to this who they're not going like, that's weird that you do that. what you're doing is wrong. I'm sure there's people who would think it's wrong to go out and have dinner with someone of the opposite gender when you're married.
I'm sure.
It's wrong to, I don't know, leave your husband or wife to be on the road all the time. It's wrong to whatever it is.
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's cool too. Totally.
But we just don't have that problem.
Yeah, which is great. So to kind of wrap it up and put a final thought on it, I realize that we're not
normal.
Not normal, and it's hard to get the other side of it. But I also think, in statistics show, 19% of people in a relationship share their phone passwords. If that's cool with you to not share your password, more power to you.
Yeah.
Great, totally fine. But my guess is there's probably a lot of people who, if you're in that situation, might not love that situation.
Yeah.
So the question for me is like, how do you bring that up to your partner in a way that you can get closer to your desired goal, whether that's having their password or
location,
having the piece of location, or having the peace of mind, like, oh, that's why it's important to them that that I don't have their password.
That's what I would say. I don't know if you're actually asking or just putting it out into the world, but I'm going to answer it and say I was thinking that too. Like I think you have to figure out for yourself, like, why do I want to know this information? Like, why is it important to me that I have your location on my phone? I can count on my hand the amount of times that I looked at your location.
Sure.
Last year.
Oh, yeah.
Like truly, maybe on two hands, but most of the time it was because you were flying somewhere and I knew what time you were supposed to land and I hadn't heard from you for a while. And so I was like, did he make it?
He's probably dead.
Yeah. Cause that is my greatest fear, is that you'll like die in a flight.
Minus spiders.
No, it's not. But I tell you that all the time. But, yeah, but figuring out like why is that important to you? Like, what is the reason that you want to have someone's location? And truly, if it's because you don't trust them, you probably need to do some more work on yourself and maybe talk to your therapist, or maybe figure out why you don't trust them before you just demand them to allow you to have access to that thing. Because truly, if you're doing that, I question, like, if you have someone's password to their phone or their location or whatever, and you already doubt their honesty or you don't trust them fully, then you're probably going to be looking for things.
Yeah.
Looking for that Casey case. You know what I mean? Looking for that case that sets you up to either get in a big fight with this person or break up with them or whatever, the end of whatever.
You're looking for the proof to solidify the thought you have.
Yeah. Versus like wanting to know someone's location because there are times that you just want to check in and make sure they're okay.
Yeah.
Or like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I can understand the type of person that would be like, why do you need to know my exact location all the time?
Oh, for sure.
Because some people are that type of independent. We don't care.
Yeah. Well, we don't even truly.
You want to know my location at a given moment? Just look to your left.
I know. And sometimes I'll look at your location if I'm like, oh, he's coming back home.
Yeah.
Or him and Brooklyn are on their way home or something. Like how far away are they? Oh, okay. Here.
Yeah, you're right though. Examining the motives why, but even more than that for me is like, even if your why is like, my why is that I think they're texting someone they shouldn't or looking at stuff they shouldn't. I don't think that's a negative why. I don't think you need to go to therapy to solve why you're suspicious. I think it all comes down to the trust issue and in the relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's a good way to bring it up with the partner to be like, hey, if I wanted to have your phone password, could I? Like, I don't know how you can bring it up without maybe making them feel defensive over it.
I don't know. Maybe it starts with being like, hey, I want to give you my phone password.
You want to give me yours?
Because I want to give you access. I have nothing to hide. I just want you to know.
See, even that, if I'm putting myself in that relationship, I'm going like, why would she say that? Does she want me to give her my password?
Yes.
Is it because she thinks I'm not and she's better than me? Like, I know it would be tricky.
But I wonder if it's like asking someone or like giving someone a key to your apartment nowadays. Is that like the similar thing? Like, hey, I'm not asking you to move in quite yet, but I'm like being like, hey, but I want you to have access to come over and see and see me and come to my house whenever you want. I wonder if it's the same thing.
Are more willing to give out a key to their apartment than they are the password to their phone.
But you know what I mean? I wonder if that's like a new form of olive branch in a relationship. If that's like the next step. Like I give you a key to my apartment and then I give you access to my phone password and then I ask you to move in with me.
It's definitely a big step. If I was dating someone, I wouldn't be like, hi, it's a great first date. It's 2274.
No.
3254.
818. 2600.
Either way, I think for me, what it boils down to is like, if you want to have access to your partner's phone and you're not given that, It's a tricky situation to be in. And I think someone's got to come to terms with why you can or can't have that and figure that out. Because while I don't think that it's bad to have privacy in your life and relationship,
Yeah.
I think if something is important to someone else,
Yeah.
especially when it involves a supercomputer that communicates with anyone in the entire world,
Yeah.
I think it is fair to be like, it's fair to have thoughts
Yes.
or worries.
Yeah.
And if you can't give a good enough answer to why you wouldn't want your partner doing that, how strong of an answer is like, I'm an independent person. Like, I would just need to hear
It's
more.
not that strong. Yeah. I'd be like, okay, cool. Me too. Also,
Open it up.
can I have access to your location, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
I worry about you.
Weird and wild times.
Anyway, yeah, I'd love to hear, if anyone's listening, I'd love to hear if you don't share your passcode or it took you a long time to share some of that information with your partner, spouse, whatever. Like, I'd love to know why. Because truly, I don't know that there's necessarily anything wrong with it. It is different than what I think for sure. But I'm just curious as to why some of those things wouldn't be. And you're talking to two people who like didn't put our bank accounts together until like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not for any other reason, probably other than we were lazy, but like we just didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But like I wasn't like, what are you spending your money on?
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, I trust him enough to spend his money on things that make sense.
Yeah. And here's the deal. Like with the passwords, it's a want, not necessarily a need. Like if you don't care, like why would I
why
want
do you
her
need it?
password? Who cares?
Yeah.
It's just, but if you do want it,
Then it should be a conversation.
Exactly. Anyway, hey, while you're pulling up next week's question, let me just throw it out there. If you do want to throw in your 2 cents on this or anything that we're talking about, including what Kelly was saying, if you don't share your passwords and stuff, send it on over. The easiest way to get a hold of us is on
Your
Instagram.
password. I'm just kidding.
227. Hit us up on Instagram. It's Hardly Working Insta. You can find us on there, Hardly Working Insta. You can send us anything that you want there. We're trying to keep that even more active, not as much with the posts, but stories, seeing a little bit more about like what our daily, day-to-day lives are. So it's a fun way to keep in touch and to be in touch with us. So what are we talking about next week, Cal?
Next week, thanks for asking. Next week on Hardly Working Through It, we're going to talk about burnout.
Ooh.
Talking about what does it look like? How do you prevent it? How do you cope with it when it happens?
Jeez.
Maybe talk about burnout in our life in the past. But I'm excited to talk about that. Burnout was a big part of my life for a long time, especially during COVID. And I know for you too. So I'm really excited to talk about what burnout looks like for us and how we prevent and cope with it.
I love it. We're putting a little keynote together on that exact topic here soon. I'm
Ooh.
very excited. But I hope you enjoyed listening and hanging out with us. It's always such a treat to get to chat with you and bring people into it. And I hope that our relationship, I don't really care if you think it's weird, but I hope that it gives you a little joy. I hope it gives you joy.
We are weird.
And I hope if you need it, it gives you some hope. I've been in relationships, and I've had times in many relationships where I've lost hope. Like I didn't think that things could get better, and I didn't think that things could change.
Yeah.
To the point where I would see other happy people and think like, no one's actually happy. Why are they acting like that? I know they're not happy.
Yeah.
It just seemed so impossible for me to imagine a happy relationship and a happy life. And now I have that in spades every single day of my life. So if you need it, I hope it gives you hope. But regardless, have a wonderful week. Be well, be safe, be happy, be healthy. And most of all, spend most of your time
Hardly working. Bye.
Bye.